Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from AnthonysCustoms, and for this review we are looking at the Mafex BVS Wonder Woman action figure. Now you guys know the BVS line from Mafex has been pretty spotty. The Superman was particularly bad, the Batman had some serious issues despite being okay, and then the Armored Batman had a couple of serious issues, but for the most part was actually pretty good. So you're probably wondering, where is Wonder Woman going to fall in that line? We haven't had many good figures of her. Will this finally be a good one? The answer is no. Definitely not. It's not absolutely terrible, it's not the worst figure in the world, but it's definitely not anywhere close to the best. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. This figure stands roughly 6¼ inches tall, which makes it just about 16 centimeters. So it's pretty well in scale with the other Mafex figures, but probably a little bit too tall for most other imports, which is standard. That's not a big deal. We knew that going in, so no real problems there. First impressions on this figure are that they screwed up the proportions and the face drastically. We'll get into those specifically in a little bit, but I do want to point out that for the most part, I like the paint job. I like the kind of flat blue and metallic red that they have, or metallic blue and metallic red that they have for her main suit. There's some really nice high metallic finish silver kind of threaded throughout the gold on the belt, and then the gold, while it could be a little bit more metallic, it looks okay, but we have again that very, very shiny silver for the gauntlets, and I like it. I like the paint job for the most part for the lower legs. It's a little spotty here and there, but it's not too bad. I will say that the paint job for the hair is also pretty good, though maybe a little bit too brown. It looks nice. They did a good job with the shading. Now, before we get into the figure anymore, let's talk accessories. We have a few different hands. We have the two fist hands that come on the figure in the package, two kind of closed gripping hands, two kind of more open gripping hands, and then two style pose hands. So you should have enough options there. We have two versions of her lasso, one that's all wound up, and then one that's wound up for both different hands to hold. We have her shield and her sword and a display stand. Now for me, the shield is falling apart on the back, so it's very hard for her to hold, and I feel like that's going to happen for most people due to the way it's designed. Okay, so now let's talk about the figure and let's talk about the face, because that's the thing most people are going to notice first off, and it's kind of an important feature. The face on this figure is terrible, absolutely bad. The only way to make this look like Gal Gadot is to turn the head almost completely around to where you just barely see it, and then it kind of looks like her, just a little bit. That's it. If you look at it too much from the front, you won't even realize that it's supposed to be her. Now, this is what it looked like in the promotional images, which isn't perfect, but it looked pretty good, definitely good enough. It looks nothing like that on the final figure at all, not even a little bit. And the paint job is really bad. It's really, really sloppy. The eyes don't look good. The mouth doesn't look good at all. Her teeth are kind of like spilling over her lips. The paint job for her tiara crown thingy, it's atrocious. Her skin is spilling over onto the top of that. It looks really bad in just about every way. Now, if you leave it really far away and don't look at it too close, and squint a little bit, maybe to the point where your eyes are closed, it kind of looks like Gal, but for the most part, it really doesn't, and that's a deal breaker. All the other issues aside, the face is definitely a deal breaker, and now we have the other issues to talk about, so get ready. For the head, we have a double ball peg. You know, it could be a single. I haven't pulled it apart because I know Mafex figures like to break, so I haven't tried to, but it moves around fine. The hair is fairly soft enough anyway to move the head around reasonably. It doesn't look very far up and down due to the hair, but that's kind of expected. So it's good enough. The hair is not a problem. For the shoulders, we have a ball peg where it connects to the torso, although that big gap doesn't go away. You can't do anything about it. It's not like it extends out like the Figma Samus in the Zero suit. It's just a big ugly gap, so that's a problem. But we do have the hinge for the shoulder, which gives you really good range, but that's because of that giant gap in her shoulder, so it's very ugly despite being effective. They needed to find some kind of middle ground. We do have a bicep swivel in there, so that's okay. We have a double jointed elbow. That works well enough. It's not the best in the world, but it will do. And then we have a ball hinge for the wrist, which is standard and works well enough, so no problems there. For the upper torso, we have maybe a double again, maybe a single, I don't know, but a really effective system. Probably a single ball peg, that's what it feels like, doesn't really want to shift anyway, so leans really far forward, really far back, side to side, full rotation, everything you want. Well, not full rotation, but enough, so that's good. Then for the lower torso, we have a single ball peg, which also has really good range. So functionally, it's fantastic. Aesthetically, she has no shape at all. None. Her torso is very thick, so it takes away the thickness of her hips and the thickness of her chest, so she doesn't have any of that shape that she's supposed to have. In fact, you have to kind of lean her back in order for her lower torso to work okay, and if you lean her forward, she has this big lump going right across here, which is no good. So it's very disappointing. Now I know Gal Gadot doesn't have the biggest chest in the world, I get that, but the way it's designed, it makes it look like she has almost no chest. Doesn't look good. And then her hips are also very, very narrow on this figure, and that's also not good. It doesn't look like it did over here. Look at that. She's got, I mean, the chest isn't that much better in the pictures here, but the hips definitely are. And on this figure, it's almost impossible to put them in the right position because she has this floating underwear piece underneath her skirt, which is not wide enough to accommodate the actual thighs. So they can't go inside that part, and they just kind of hang down, and it creates this very tubular look, and it doesn't look great. Now, you can pose it away a little bit and make it look a little bit better, but it's just not going to look that good no matter what you do. The hips do have the hinged ball pegs, so you can move them up and down to increase your range of motion, which is fine. I mean, they work out okay, except the skirt here, even though it's soft, it sits on top of whatever you do. So when you bring the legs up, the skirt just goes up, and it creates this terrible gapping everywhere, and it just doesn't look good. It's very poorly executed. Having this floating skirt the way it is, it's not good. Technically, you have good range of motion, but it's not going to look good, so it's almost pointless. You do have a thigh swivel in there on top of everything else, but it's only going to look kind of okay if you leave her standing straight up and down. That's it. I mean, it's just very poorly executed. For her knees, we have a double jointed knee, which works really well. I don't know how I feel about the separation of the armor, but I guess that's okay. I don't know how much they could have done to do it better, so that's fine by me, and it has good range. For her ankles, we have a very large ankle hinge, which doesn't work. I don't know what's up with that, but it doesn't work. So technically it'll swivel at both ends, so you can get an ankle rocker out of it, but the hinge itself doesn't work unless you rotate the ankle. And then you can't really rotate it that well, but it does work enough to become an ankle rocker, but it's just very strange how big that joint is and how ineffective it is. So I don't know, guys. I think Mafex they're so close to being really, really good, but almost every time they shoot themselves in the foot and screw up the figure. I don't know what's up with that. I had to cancel my Hulkbuster pre-order with them just because I can't trust them on such an expensive figure. I mean, I hope it's great for everyone else, but I'm not going to get one because I'm afraid it's going to be lousy and it costs way too much for me to make that gamble. So I have to say, this is probably on par with Superman. It's not entirely bad, but it's definitely bad enough that I have to say I would not buy it. So that's my final verdict. There you go. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and make sure you turn on notifications. That's that little bell button next to the subscribe button. That will make sure YouTube tells you when I upload a video. And you want to do that because I have new videos up every single day. We talk about action figures, movies, TV shows, video games, all kinds of fun stuff. So you want to make sure you're back for that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.